In the heart of Mumbai, where skyscrapers kissed the clouds and luxury cars lined the streets, lived a man named Arjun Kapoor. He wasn't just any man. He was one of India's richest entrepreneurs. His life was like something out of a movie. A sprawling mansion with marble floors, servants attending to his every need, and an empire that stretched across continents. But all this wealth couldn't buy him happiness because his world had been shattered 5 years ago. Arjun had a daughter, Riya, who used to be the light of his life. At 8 years old, she was full of energy, always running around the house laughing and dreaming big. She loved dancing more than anything else in the world. Every evening you could find her twirling in the garden, her laughter echoing through the air. But one fateful day everything changed. It happened on a rainy afternoon when Arjun's driver was taking Riya home from school. The roads were slippery, visibility poor, and another speeding car lost control at an intersection. In seconds, their vehicle flipped over, leaving Riya trapped inside. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Though she survived the accident, doctors delivered devastating news. Riya would never walk again. A spinal injury had left her paralyzed from the waist down. For Arjun, hearing those words felt like someone had ripped his heart out. He spent sleepless nights blaming himself for not being there to protect her. Over the next few months, he poured millions into treatments, visiting the best hospitals in India, flying abroad for experimental surgeries, hiring therapists, and trying every possible remedy modern medicine offered. Yet nothing worked. Despite all his efforts, Riya remained confined to a wheelchair. As the years passed, Riya grew quieter. Her once bright smile faded, replaced by a sadness that broke Arjun's heart. She stopped talking about her dreams, stopped dancing, and even avoided looking at photos of herself before the accident. Watching his little girl lose her spark made Arjun feel powerless. No matter how much money he threw at the problem, no doctor or expert could give him hope. It seemed like his family's tragedy had no end in sight. One day, while driving through the crowded streets of Mumbai, Arjun found himself stuck in traffic near Colaba Causeway. Horns blared, vendors shouted, and pedestrians weaved between cars selling snacks and trinkets. Outside his gleaming black Mercedes, life buzzed with chaos. That's when he noticed a boy sitting by the side of the road. The boy looked no older than 12, his clothes torn and dirty, his face smudged with soot. Like many others begging. On the streets, he held out a small tin cup, hoping for coins from passers-by. But what caught Arjun's attention wasn't the boy's appearance. It was the way he stared at him. There was something different about this child. While most beggars avoided eye contact or simply mumbled pleas for alms, this boy locked eyes with Arjun as if he wanted to say something important. Curious, Arjun lowered his window slightly, expecting a request for money or food. Instead, the boy leaned closer and said something that froze him in place. "Sir," the boy began, his voice steady and clear despite the noise around them. "I can make your daughter walk again." Arjun blinked, unsure if he'd heard correctly. Was this some kind of scam? Did the boy overhear him talking to someone about Riya? Or was he just desperate for cash? Before Arjun could dismiss him, the boy continued. "My grandmother knows how to heal people like your daughter. Please, sir, let me help." The audacity of the statement stunned Arjun. How could a street kid, living hand to mouth possibly, know anything about spinal injuries? What did he mean by heal? For a moment, Arjun considered rolling up the window and driving away. After all, he'd seen countless quacks promising miracle cures, only to leave him disappointed and poorer. Yet, something stopped him. Maybe it was the sincerity in the boy's eyes, or perhaps it was the tiny flicker of hope still burning deep within him, a hope he hadn't felt in years. Against all logic, Arjun reached into his pocket, pulled out a business card, and handed it to the boy. "If you're serious," he said firmly, "bring your grandmother tomorrow morning to my office. We'll talk then." With that, Arjun rolled up the window and drove off, leaving the boy standing there, clutching the card tightly. As the city blurred past his windshield, Arjun couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter might change everything, or nothing at all. The next morning, Arjun woke up with a mix of curiosity and skepticism swirling in his mind. He had tossed and turned all night, replaying the boy's words over and over again. "I can make your daughter walk again." It sounded too good to be true, almost like something out of a fairy tale. But deep down, he couldn't ignore the tiny spark of hope that had been reignited within him. After years of disappointment, rejection, and despair, even the smallest glimmer of possibility felt monumental. Arjun arrived at his corporate headquarters early, dressed sharply in a tailored suit, ready to face whatever, or whoever showed up. His assistant greeted him with her usual clipboard and updates, but today, his mind wasn't on meetings or deadlines. Every time the elevator doors opened, he glanced up expectantly, wondering if the beggar boy would actually show up. What, if it was all just a ploy? What if no one came? By mid-morning, just as Arjun began convincing himself that the boy wasn't coming, the receptionist buzzed him. "Sir, there are 2 visitors here for you. They say they have an appointment." Arjun straightened up in his chair, his heart skipping a beat. "Send them in," he said, trying to sound calm despite the storm of emotions brewing inside him. Moments later, the door opened, and in walked the boy from yesterday. This time, though, he looked slightly different. His clothes were cleaner, not brand new, but patched up carefully, and his hair was neatly combed. Behind him stood an elderly woman draped in a simple cotton sari. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes carried a quiet confidence as if she'd seen far more than most people could imagine. "Good morning, sir," the boy said politely, bowing his head slightly. The gesture surprised Arjun. It wasn't what he expected from someone who lived on the streets. There was a dignity about the pair that made him sit up straighter. The elderly woman stepped forward, her hands clasped together in a respectful namaste. "Namaste, sir. My name is Kantabai. I believe my grandson told you we might be able to help your daughter." Arjun studied her carefully, searching for any sign of deception. But instead of finding trickery, he saw wisdom etched into every wrinkle on her face. Something about her presence commanded respect, and without realizing it, Arjun found himself nodding. "Please take a seat," he said, gesturing toward the chairs across from his desk. As they settled in, Kantabai began explaining her background. She came from a long line of traditional healers who practiced ancient techniques passed down through generations. These weren't quick fixes or magic potions. They were methods rooted in Ayurveda, using herbs, oils, massages, and mental conditioning to restore balance to the body. She spoke slowly, choosing her words carefully, ensuring Arjun understood the depth of what she was offering. "We don't promise miracles," she said gently. "But I've seen cases like your daughter's before. Sometimes, the body holds potential that modern medicine cannot see. We work with patience, nature, and faith." Her voice was soft yet firm, and as she spoke, Arjun felt a strange sense of calm wash over him. For the first time in years, someone wasn't talking to him as a billionaire desperate enough to throw money at anything promising a cure. Instead, Kantabai addressed him as a father, a man who simply wanted his child to smile again. "But why?" Arjun finally asked, leaning forward. "Why would you bother helping us? You don't know me, and I'm sure you have your own struggles." Kantabai smiled faintly, her gaze steady. "Because everyone deserves a chance to rise above their circumstances, sir. Whether rich or poor, we all suffer in our own ways. If I can ease someone's pain, then that is my duty." Her words struck a chord deep within Arjun. Here was a woman who had nothing compared to him, yet she spoke of duty and compassion with such conviction. It made him question everything he thought he knew about privilege and purpose. The boy, her grandson, sat quietly beside her, watching Arjun intently. When the conversation paused, he spoke up. "Sir, my grandmother has helped many people in our village. Some walked again, some regained strength, and others found peace. We're not asking for anything except a chance to try." There was no arrogance in his tone, only determination. Arjun realized this boy wasn't doing this for fame or fortune. He genuinely believed in what his grandmother could do. Despite his lingering doubts, Arjun decided to give them a shot. but on his terms. If you're serious about helping Ria, I want you to stay at my private estate outside the city. You'll have access to whatever resources you need, but under strict supervision. No tricks, no shortcuts. Just honest effort. Kantabai nodded solemnly. We agree to your conditions, sir. All we ask is trust and time. With that, the meeting ended, and arrangements were made. As Arjun watched the pair leave his office, he couldn't shake the feeling that something extraordinary was about to unfold. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to dream, not of wealth or success, but of hearing his daughter laugh freely once more. Later that evening, Arjun broke the news to Ria. At first, she was hesitant, unsure whether to believe in another supposed cure. But when he mentioned the boy's unwavering confidence and the grandmother's gentle demeanor, something shifted in her expression. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was the same flicker of hope that had ignited in Arjun. Whatever it was, she agreed to give it a try. As the days passed, preparations were underway. The estate garden was transformed into a makeshift clinic, complete with herbs drying in the sun and vials of oil neatly arranged on shelves. Kantabai moved around with quiet authority, preparing everything she needed while her grandson assisted her diligently. Though their lives were worlds apart, the three of them, Arjun, Kantabai, and the boy, were now bound by a shared goal: to bring Ria back to life. Little did they know, this journey would change not just Ria's fate, but theirs as well. Life at Arjun's private estate took on a rhythm unlike anything the family had experienced before. The sprawling mansion, usually quiet except for the hum of maids polishing marble floors or chefs preparing elaborate meals, now buzzed with activity. Kantabai and her grandson arrived early every morning, setting up their makeshift clinic in the garden. They brought with them bundles of dried herbs, clay pots filled with fragrant oils, and wooden tools carved by hand. To Ria, it felt like stepping into another world, one that smelled of earth, flowers, and ancient secrets. Kantabai wasted no time getting started. On the first day, she sat down with Ria under the shade of a banyan tree, holding her hands, gently as if cradling something precious. "Child," she said softly, "the body is strong, but the mind must believe too. Together, we will work to awaken what lies dormant within you." Ria nodded hesitantly, unsure whether to trust this frail-looking woman who spoke with such authority. But there was kindness in Kantabai's eyes, a warmth that made her feel safe. For the first time in years, Ria didn't feel like a burden or a broken thing. She felt like someone worth fighting for. The treatment began with simple exercises. Kantabai taught Ria how to massage her legs using special oils infused with herbs like turmeric, ashwagandha, and tulsi. These weren't just random ingredients. Each one had a purpose. Turmeric reduced inflammation, ashwagandha strengthened muscles, and tulsi improved circulation. As Ria rubbed the oil into her skin, she could almost imagine the medicine seeping deep into her bones, coaxing her body back to life. But the real challenge came when Kantabai introduced physical therapy. Every morning, Ria would sit on a mat while Kantabai pressed her fingers firmly along specific points on her back and legs. At first, the pressure was uncomfortable, sometimes even painful, but Kantabai assured her it was necessary. "Pain means your body is waking up," she explained. "It's telling us it remembers how to move." The boy whose name everyone now knew was Rohan played a crucial role in these sessions. He wasn't just an assistant. He became Ria's cheerleader, motivator, and friend. When she struggled to lift her leg during exercises, Rohan would clap his hands and say, "Come on, Ria, you can do it." His enthusiasm was infectious, and slowly, Ria started believing him. Days turned into weeks, and though progress seemed invisible at first, small changes began to emerge. One afternoon, while Rohan helped Ria stretch her calves, she suddenly gasped. "I felt something," she exclaimed, her eyes wide with shock. It was faint, a tiny twitch in her toes, but it was enough to send ripples of excitement through the household. Arjun, who had been observing everything from a distance, couldn't contain his emotions. He rushed to Ria's side, kneeling beside her wheelchair. "What did you feel?" he asked, his voice trembling. "It was like a spark," Ria replied, still staring at her feet in disbelief. "Like my toes wanted to move." Tears welled up in Arjun's eyes. For 5 long years he had dreamed of this moment, the moment when his daughter might take her first step toward recovery. And here it was, happening right in front of him, thanks to 2 strangers who had walked into their lives out of nowhere. As the treatments continued, the bond between Ria and Rohan grew stronger. Despite their vastly different backgrounds, they found common ground in laughter and shared dreams. Rohan told Ria stories about growing up in the slums, how he used to climb trees to pick mangoes, race kites with other kids, and dream of becoming a doctor someday. "I want to heal people like my grandmother does," he said proudly. "But I need to study first. That's why I beg. To save money for school." Listening to him, Ria realized how lucky she was, even though she had lost the ability to walk. She had never gone hungry or worried about where her next meal would come from. For the first time, she saw her struggles through a new lens, not as something that defined her, but as a hurdle she could overcome. Meanwhile, Arjun watched these interactions with a mix of admiration and guilt. Here was a boy who had nothing, yet radiated hope and determination. In contrast, Arjun had everything money could buy, yet he often felt empty inside. The simplicity of Rohan's dreams reminded him of what truly mattered: love, connection, and purpose. Kantabai noticed the shift in Arjun's demeanor too. One evening, as they sat together sipping tea, she said, "Sir, wealth is important, but it cannot fill the void in your heart. Your daughter needs more than just medical care. She needs joy, laughter, and freedom. Let her find herself again." Her words struck a chord deep within Arjun. Over the next few days, he made an effort to spend more time with Ria, not as a billionaire businessman, but as a father. They played board games, watched movies, and talked about everything under the sun. Slowly, the walls between them began to crumble, replaced by a bond that had been missing for far too long. Back at the clinic, Kantabai introduced new techniques to accelerate Ria's recovery. She taught her breathing exercises to calm her mind and visualization techniques to strengthen her connection with her body. "Imagine yourself walking," she instructed. "Feel the ground beneath your feet, the wind against your face. Believe it, and your body will follow." At first, Ria struggled to picture herself standing upright. Years of being confined to a wheelchair had convinced her that walking was impossible. But with Kantabai's guidance and Rohan's encouragement, she started imagining tiny victories, standing for a few seconds, taking one step, then another. Each mental image felt like planting a seed, and she prayed it would grow into reality. By the end of the 3rd week, Ria began attempting to stand with support. Using parallel bars set up in the garden, she gripped them tightly, her knuckles white with effort. Her legs wobbled uncontrollably and sweat dripped down her forehead, but she refused to give up. Rohan stood beside her, holding her waist steady, cheering her on. "You've got this, Ria. Just a little more." Finally, one magical afternoon, Ria managed to stay upright for 10 whole seconds. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at her reflection in the glass doors of the house. For the first time in 5 years, she saw herself standing tall. It wasn't perfect, and it certainly wasn't easy, but it was a start, a glimmer of hope that promised so much more. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky orange and pink, Arjun joined them in the garden. He hugged Ria tightly, whispering, "I'm so proud of you." In that moment, surrounded by nature, laughter, and love, the Kapoor family felt whole again. Little did they know, their journey was far from over, and the lessons they were learning extended far beyond Ria's recovery. As the weeks rolled on, life at the estate became a blend of routine and wonder. Every morning began with the sweet aroma of freshly brewed tea, mixed with the earthy scent of herbs drying in the sun. Kantabai would rise early, her frail hands moving deftly as she prepared oils and pastes for the day's therapy. Rohan, ever the diligent helper, fetched water from the well, ground spices into fine powders, and arranged everything neatly on a wooden tray. Their presence brought a simplicity to the mansion that Arjun hadn't realized it lacked. Ria, too, had settled into this new rhythm. At first, the exercises were grueling, painful even, but she soon discovered a strange kind of peace in them. It wasn't just about regaining movement, it was about reclaiming control over her body and mind. Each session felt like chipping away at a wall that had trapped her for years. And though progress was slow, it was undeniable. One particular morning stands out vividly in everyone's memory. The air was cool, carrying the faint smell of jasmine flowers blooming nearby. Ria sat cross-legged on a mat under the banyan tree, her face set in deep concentration. Kantabai knelt beside her, guiding her through a breathing exercise meant to calm the nervous system and awaken dormant nerves. "Breathe in deeply," Kantabai instructed, her voice soft but firm. "Imagine your breath flowing all the way, down to your toes." Rohan stood nearby, watching intently. He held a small notebook where he jotted down notes whenever Kantabai explained something new. Though he couldn't read or write fluently, his determination to learn shone brightly. "Why are you writing all that?" Ria teased, trying to lighten the mood during a particularly challenging stretch. "So I don't forget anything," Rohan replied earnestly, flashing her a toothy grin. "One day, I'll be able to teach others like my grandmother does." His words struck a chord with Ria. Here was a boy who had nothing. No fancy education, no luxurious home, not even 3 square meals a day. And yet he dreamed bigger than anyone she knew. His optimism was contagious, and it pushed her to try harder every single day. The physical therapy sessions grew more intense as Ria's strength improved. One afternoon, Kantabai decided it was time to attempt walking again. Using 2 parallel bars set up in the garden, Ria gripped them tightly, her legs trembling beneath her. Her heart pounded with equal parts fear and excitement. Could she really do this? What if she fell? "You're stronger than you think," Kantabai reassured her, standing close by. "Trust your body. It knows what to do." Rohan positioned, himself behind her, ready to catch her if she stumbled. "Come on, Ria. Just one step," he urged, his voice brimming with encouragement. "You can do it." With a deep breath, Ria shifted her weight forward. Her right leg quivered as she lifted it slightly off the ground. For a moment, panic surged through her. What if she collapsed? But then, miraculously, her foot touched down a few inches ahead. She gasped, tears welling up in her eyes. "I did it," she cried, looking back at her father, who stood watching with bated breath. Arjun rushed forward, his own eyes glistening. "That's my girl," he said, pulling her into a tight hug. In that moment, the years of pain and frustration melted away, replaced by pure joy. They celebrated with laughter and applause, the sound echoing through the garden like music. But the journey wasn't without its setbacks. Some days Ria's muscles ached so much that she could barely move. Other times frustration got the better of her, and she lashed out, shouting that it was hopeless. On those days, Rohan proved to be her anchor. He'd sit beside her, sharing stories of his own struggles growing up in the slums. "Life is tough sometimes," he admitted. "But giving up means losing before you even start. You have to keep going." His words resonated deeply with Ria. Slowly, she learned to channel her frustration into determination. With each passing week, her movements became smoother, her steps steadier. By the end of the 2nd month, she was able to walk short distances with the support of a walker. Watching her transformation filled Arjun with awe and gratitude. What amazed him most, however, was how much Rohan and Kantabai had changed their lives, not just physically but emotionally. Before they arrived, the Kapoor household had been cold and distant, weighed down by grief and unspoken guilt. Now, it buzzed with warmth and connection. Arjun found himself laughing more, talking openly with Ria, and appreciating the little things in life. Even the servants noticed the shift, exchanging smiles and whispers about how different the atmosphere felt. One evening, after a particularly successful session, Arjun invited Kantabai and Rohan to join him for dinner. They sat together under the stars, eating simple dal and roti prepared by the estate chef. The conversation flowed easily, touching on topics ranging from dreams to hardships. When Rohan shyly admitted his ambition to become a doctor, Arjun promised to help him enroll in school. "You've already done so much for us," Arjun said sincerely. "Let me repay you by giving you the education you deserve." Tears welled up in Rohan's eyes, and for the first time he allowed himself to believe that maybe, just maybe, he could escape the cycle of poverty that had defined his life until now. As the night wore on, Kantabai shared ancient stories passed down through her family, tales of healing and resilience that left everyone spellbound. Listening to her, Arjun realized how disconnected he had been from his roots. His wealth had insulated him from the struggles of ordinary people, making him forget the value of compassion and community. These lessons weren't just for Raya, they were for him too. By the third month, Ria's progress was remarkable. She no longer needed the walker for short distances and could stand unaided for several minutes. Her confidence soared, and with it came a renewed sense of purpose. She started sketching again, a hobby she had abandoned after the accident, and even began planning a dance performance for her birthday. "I want to show everyone that I'm not broken anymore," she declared one day, her eyes shining with determination. Watching her transformation, Arjun felt a profound sense of fulfillment. Money couldn't buy happiness, but love, patience, and faith could rebuild what was lost. And though he didn't know what the future held, he was certain of one thing: their lives would never be the same again. By the end of the third month, Ria's transformation was nothing short of miraculous. She could now walk short distances without any support, her steps steady and confident. Her laughter echoed through the halls of the mansion once again, filling the spaces that had been silent for so long. The change wasn't just physical, it was emotional and spiritual too. For the first time in years, she felt alive, hopeful and unstoppable. But as Ria grew stronger, Kantabai and Rohan began preparing to leave. Their work here was done, they said. They had achieved what they set out to do: give Ria a fighting chance to reclaim her life. Though Arjun begged them to stay longer, offering them luxurious accommodations, hefty salaries, and anything else they might need, they politely declined. "We came here to heal your daughter, not to live in luxury," Kantabai explained, gently. "Now it's time for us to return to our lives." Arjun respected their decision, though it left him with a bittersweet feeling. How could he ever repay them for what they had done? Money seemed trivial compared to the gift they had given his family. Still, he insisted on throwing a small farewell dinner to honor them. It wasn't an extravagant affair, just a quiet gathering, under the stars with simple food and heartfelt conversations. As they sat together around a table illuminated by lanterns, Arjun raised a glass. "To Kantabai and Rohan," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You've given me back my daughter, and you've reminded me of what truly matters in life. I'll never forget this." Kantabai smiled warmly, her eyes glistening in the soft light. "Sir, we didn't do this for gratitude or reward. We did it because everyone deserves a second chance. Your daughter has a bright future ahead of her, and I know she will inspire many others." Rohan nodded, his young face glowing with pride. "Ria is strong," he added. "Stronger than anyone I know. She taught me that no matter how hard things get, you can always find a way to rise above." The words struck a chord deep within Arjun. Here was a boy who had grown up begging on the streets, yet he spoke with wisdom far beyond his years. His resilience and optimism made Arjun reflect on his own life. Despite all his wealth and success, he realized he had spent years chasing empty goals, losing sight of what really mattered: love, connection, and purpose. Before leaving, Rohan pulled Ria aside for a private moment. They stood near the banyan tree where so much of her recovery had taken place. Rohan looked at her, his expression serious, but kind. "Promise me something," he said softly. "Anything," Ria replied, her heart swelling with affection for the boy who had become like a brother to her. Never stop believing in yourself, Rohan continued. No matter what happens, remember that you are capable of amazing things. You've already proven that. Tears welled up in Ria's eyes as she hugged him tightly. Thank you, Rohan, she whispered, for everything. After Kantabai and Rohan left, their absence left a void in the Kapoor household. But their impact lingered in every corner of the estate. The garden still smelled of herbs and oils, reminders of the countless hours spent healing and rebuilding. And though Ria missed Rohan dearly, she carried his words with her wherever she went. Determined to honor their legacy, Ria threw herself into planning her dance performance, a dream she had abandoned after the accident. She practiced tirelessly, pushing her body to its limits. Every stumble, every ache only fueled her determination to succeed. Watching her from afar, Arjun felt a mix of pride and awe. His little girl had transformed into a force of nature, unstoppable and fearless. One evening, as father and daughter sat together on the veranda, Arjun broached a topic that had been weighing heavily on his mind. Ria, he began hesitantly, do you remember when I used to tell you stories about how we could change the world? She nodded, curious about where this was going. Well, he continued, I think it's time we actually try. What if we use our resources to help people like Rohan? People who have big dreams but no opportunities. Ria's eyes lit up. You mean, like building schools or hospitals? Exactly, Arjun replied, smiling. Imagine giving kids like Rohan a chance to study, to grow, to become whatever they want to be. Imagine helping families access healthcare and education without having to beg or struggle. Over the next few weeks, Arjun poured his energy into creating a foundation dedicated to uplifting underprivileged children across India. He named it Umeed, which meant hope in Hindi, a fitting tribute to the journey they had been through. The foundation focused on 3 key areas: education, healthcare, and skill development. Schools were built in rural areas, scholarships were granted to deserving students, and mobile clinics traveled to remote villages, bringing medical care to those who needed it most. Word spread quickly about the foundation, and soon volunteers from all over the country joined the cause. Among them was Rohan, who wrote letters to Arjun updating him on his progress in school. Thanks to Arjun's support, Rohan was enrolled in a reputable institution where he excelled academically. His dream of becoming a doctor burned brighter than ever, and he vowed to dedicate his life to serving others. Meanwhile, Ria prepared for her big day, the dance performance she had worked so hard for. On the evening of the event, the estate was transformed into a magical venue, with fairy lights strung between trees and flowers adorning every surface. Friends, family, and even some of the foundation's beneficiaries gathered to watch her take the stage. As the music began, Ria stepped forward, her movements graceful and confident. Each twirl, each leap told a story, not just of her recovery, but of resilience, hope, and the power of believing in oneself. When the final note faded, the audience erupted into applause, tears streaming down many faces. Arjun stood at the front, clapping louder than anyone, his heart bursting with pride. Later that night, as Ria hugged him tightly, she whispered, Papa, thank you for believing in me, for giving me a second chance. Arjun kissed her forehead, his voice choked with emotion. No, Beta, thank you. You reminded me of what it means to live, to truly live. Months turned into years, and the Kapoor family's lives continued to evolve in ways they never imagined. Ria blossomed into a confident young woman, her spirit unbreakable and her dreams bigger than ever. She didn't just return to dancing, she became a sensation, performing at charity events and cultural festivals across the country. Her story inspired countless others who had faced adversity, proving that determination and faith could overcome even the toughest challenges. But it wasn't just about her performances. Ria took an active role in her father's foundation, traveling to remote villages to meet children benefiting from their programs. She would sit with them under shady trees, sharing stories of her own struggles and triumphs. If I can walk again, she'd tell them, you can achieve anything you set your mind to. Her words carried weight because they came from experience, not just empty promises. Rohan, too, was thriving. With Arjun's support, he completed his schooling and earned a scholarship to medical college. The boy who once begged on the streets was now studying to become a doctor, a dream he had nurtured since childhood. Every holiday he visited the Kapoor estate, bringing updates on his progress and spending time with Riya and Arjun. Their bond remained as strong as ever, built on mutual respect and gratitude. One summer evening, Rohan arrived at the mansion with news that made everyone smile. He had been selected for an internship at one of Mumbai's top hospitals, where he would train alongside some of the best doctors in the country. "It's all thanks to you, sir," he said to Arjun, his voice filled with emotion. "Without your help, I wouldn't be here today." Arjun shook his head firmly. "No, Rohan, you did this yourself. Your hard work, your determination, it's all you. We just gave you a chance. The rest is your doing." That night, as they sat together under the stars, Rohan shared his plans for the future. "Once I finish my studies, I want to open a clinic in my village," and he said, "a place where people won't have to travel miles to see a doctor, a place where no one feels helpless or alone." His vision moved Arjun deeply. It reminded him of Kantabai's teachings, the idea that true healing went beyond medicine. It was about compassion, connection, and service. "We'll help you build it," Arjun promised. "The foundation will fund the entire project. Consider it our way of saying thank you for everything." Meanwhile, Kantabai continued her quiet work in the slums, helping those who couldn't afford modern health care. Though age had slowed her down, her wisdom remained unmatched. Occasionally, she sent letters to Arjun, updating him on her efforts and thanking him for supporting Rohan's education. In one letter, she wrote, "Sir, kindness has a way of coming back to us tenfold. What you've done for my grandson is a blessing not just for him, but for generations to come." Her words stayed with Arjun long after he finished reading them. They reminded him of how far they had all come, from despair to hope, from brokenness to wholeness. His wealth had once seemed like his greatest asset, but now he understood that its true value lay in how it could uplift others. As the years passed, the foundation grew exponentially, touching thousands of lives. Schools were built, scholarships awarded, and clinics established in underserved areas. One of the most impactful projects was Rohan's clinic, which became a beacon of hope for his community. People traveled from neighboring villages to seek treatment, knowing they would be treated with dignity and care. On the day the clinic opened, Arjun and Riya attended the ceremony, standing proudly beside Rohan as he cut the ribbon. The building was modest but functional, equipped with everything needed to provide quality healthcare. As villagers gathered around, clapping and cheering, Rohan addressed the crowd. "This clinic belongs to all of you," he said, his voice steady yet emotional. "It's a reminder that no matter where you come from, you deserve a chance to live a healthy, fulfilling life." Later that evening, as fireworks lit up the sky, Arjun pulled Rohan aside. "You've done something incredible here," he said. "Your grandmother would be so proud." Rohan smiled, tears glistening in his eyes. "She is proud, sir, and so am I, for all of us. Look how far we've come." Back at home, Riya reflected on the journey they had taken together. From the moment the beggar boy approached her father's car to the opening of Rohan's clinic, every step had been a testament to the power of belief and human connection. She often thought about the lessons she had learned, not just from Kantabai and Rohan, but from her own struggles. Life wasn't about avoiding pain or hardship. It was about finding strength in vulnerability and purpose in adversity. One afternoon, while practicing a new dance routine, Riya decided to dedicate her next performance to Kantabai and Rohan. She choreographed a piece that told their story. The accident, the despair, the unexpected encounter, and the eventual triumph. When the day of the performance arrived, the audience watched in silence, captivated by the raw emotion conveyed through every movement. At the end, Riya stood center stage, bowing deeply as tears streamed down her face. Afterward, during the curtain call, She invited Arjun and Rohan on stage. Together, they addressed the crowd. "This isn't just my story," Ria said, holding Rohan's hand tightly. "It's ours. It's proof that miracles happen when we choose to believe in each other." The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing through the auditorium like waves crashing against the shore. But more important than the cheers was the sense of unity in the room, a shared understanding that life's greatest victories are rarely achieved alone. Years later, when people spoke of the Kapoor family, they didn't just talk about their wealth or success. They talked about the foundation that had transformed lives, the girl who danced despite losing her ability to walk, and the boy who rose from the streets to heal others. Their story became a symbol of hope, reminding everyone that even in the darkest moments light could shine through, if only we dared to let it. And so, amidst the chaos of the city, two worlds collided, one rich, one poor, and left behind ripples of change that would last a lifetime. Through love, resilience, and unwavering faith, they proved that humanity's greatest strength lies in its ability to connect, heal, and inspire. The end.